Good morning, everyone. This is Will Mosley. I create films, podcasts, blog posts, creative content about the creative process. Um, it's a never ending cycle of art and learning and expression and, sales too. So if you've this is the first time you're hearing of me, I definitely recommend heading over to my YouTube channel and checking out a lot of my latest films, maybe Best of Will Mosley. And I'll give you a good idea of what I do specifically. Okay, so today's podcast is literally about it's a small hack, and this is for people that are wanting to be better at, making blog posts and being consistent with it, but the time that it takes to actually write a blog post they do not have on like that regular basis. I'm here to share a hack that will essentially create roughly 2 blog posts a day at a consistent, sustainable level. All right, this after the break. If you are in need of a logo, a brand, anything that's to represent you. It doesn't even have to be your company. Represent you or represent your company. I'm the right person to go to. I create logos and brands on the weekend, and I literally just created a blog post and an audio podcast about this creative process. Because I know a lot of times you're like, well, what really happens? Do I get one revision, or do I get this amount of designs, or I don't figurehead. What's that? I clarify all of that in this podcast. So either go, if you're listening to this podcast on wherever you're listening to, if you scroll down, a couple episodes, it will be there. If you're more the likes that wants to find it on the web, you can go to heywillmosley.com and head over to the blog section. So it's right there. Okay, back. So speaking of blogs, right? I remember the days where my dream was, and this was a small dream. This wasn't like the huge dream, but my dream was like, I'd love to run a blog and make a lot of money from it and just write about the stuff that I care about, and just somehow people would find me and love it and all that stuff. Well, that dream died way early on, and I gave up on that a long time ago. The funny thing is about certain dreams and not exactly pursuing them in the way that you think that you would, and then things just happen. That's kind of how this has happened. So, in the day and age of 2019, first and foremost, I'd recommend if you're thinking about starting anything, definitely start out doing maybe a vlog or a podcast first. But if vlogging's not your thing, but maybe audio is, here's a way that you can double up on your content and just like whip out blog posts like nothing else. So what's a blog post, right? Blog post typically has a nice image and then a whole bunch of words talking about, whatever the content is that you want to talk about. A blog post, though, doesn't always have to be, all words. It can be a mix of photos, a mix of audio, a mix of video. It pretty much is just like, as long as you have like a summary, like an introduction to help the person understand what they're about to get into, that's a blog post. So, for instance, the logo, what it's like to get a weekend logo from Will Mosley, post that I made this morning. It had a beautiful image. It had a good couple paragraphs of summary. And then here's the kicker, here's the hack to make all this work on a consistent, easy basis. Uh, I embedded a SoundCloud. Um, I pretty much embedded the podcast for how what it's like to get a logo from me. So literally, people can listen on for 10, 15, however long that post is, and they're getting both the benefit of me contextually writing some words about what maybe something that I didn't exactly share in the audio experience, but they're also getting a long form piece of content. Now, the benefit to you, if you do it this way, is picking up a mic and talking into it and just kind of getting comfortable on your regular drive is fairly easy. It's you pick up the mic, you put some headphones in to make sure you're not spiking or peaking. I made a podcast about creating a podcast, so definitely go look at that. Just scroll down a little bit if you're hearing this specifically on the podcast, and there'll be a podcast about making podcasts. So, listen to that. You're getting the benefit of making a podcast, but also you don't have to be a writer. All you have to do is. I hate when people say all you have to do or just. Sorry about that. But what you got to do is just once the podcast is live, you go over to your blog, whether that's Squarespace or WordPress or whatever. Find a nice image or take an image. I try to take images as much as I can on your phone. You got your phone. Alright, so I made a post last night about a deep dive into drones or something like that. And I took a picture of my drone. It actually turned out really nice. Just kind of look for composition. I then wrote, a paragraph. Writing a paragraph is like taking 2 minutes to write something about, what they're about to get into, and that, to listen along below. And then I linked the podcast to that article. And I say SoundCloud because I go through SoundCloud, but you easily could do, link from, you can easily embed or link from other type of podcast sources. Most of them have an embed or share type of thing. And that's it. That is absolutely it. And what's cool about that is once you've created that blog post, I use Squarespace, so you literally can share it out to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and everywhere else, which is dope. And then I take it one step further. You don't have to do this, but I'm finding uses for stories, and this is how I'm trying to do them. I'm trying to make them like right hooks or whatever. I literally post a picture, the picture that I used for the blog article, write some text on that picture saying, hey, new blog post out, or hey, ever wondered about da-da-da-da, and then, the URL to that blog post. And then I also double down and add an actual post to my Instagram that is, the same pictures, pretty much the same information, so that it doesn't get lost in the story eventually. And that's it. It took me about 10-15 minutes to make the post itself. You know what I mean? Actually write the title, get the image. I'm talking about making the post and sharing it everywhere. So that's nothing. And then the podcast itself, I'm not going to go deep into podcasting because I already made a podcast about that, but the thing about podcasting is, if you have a commute like me that's 30 minutes long or an hour long or hell, even 20 minutes long, if you take a audio recorder with you and just talk into it for 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes. Doesn't have to be too long. And you just talk about whatever the topic is. You have a topic in your mind, and there you go. You got you a post already. In that audio file, don't get to the point. If you can get to the point where you don't have to go and edit and make sure you clear out all of your what you didn't want to say. Like, if you just get to the point where it's just conversational and you're talking, and what the audio file is what the audio file is, you literally can just upload it straight to your podcasting service, whatever you're using. I'm using SoundCloud, and then it's available. Something else that I've been doing with the podcast that's been working tremendously well is, because I'm creating roughly 2 of these a day, I'm scheduling them at 7 a.m. whatever the next day is. And if it's 2 of them, I'd be the following day. So it kind of happens as it compounds. So I have podcasts that are already a few weeks out, that are already scheduled to hit at 7 a.m. every morning, which is cool. You know what I mean? That's super, super cool. And so, like, it's a really meta, really cool thing that you can do, because what you're doing is you're stacking, but you're also pacing your content. So say you have like diehard like podcast fans, they're like all about your podcast. Well, when the podcast comes out, they get it right then and there. But if you have, like, say, diehard blog article fans, that audio experience or whatever probably is, it'll probably take you a week or so to kind of get back around to maybe adding that post to the blog. And like, so they don't, so you get to continue to deliver on what you've created, almost a month out, even after the post, even after the original piece of content's kind of been put out. And what's going to be absolutely insane with this, because I'm going to take it another step. I haven't done it yet, so I won't say that you can, but I'm pretty confident. What I'm going to do with this, now that I've figured out an image for that audio experience, that means that when I have time, when I get around to it, I can create a video on YouTube. I might add like a little bit of context, like I might add a little video clip behind saying, hey, look, this is pretty much an audio experience, you can listen along. Just want to share it on the YouTube channel as well. And then you have the double benefit of having another video. It's just crazy. It's insane. And so, coming full circle back to my original dream of wishing that I had a blog that, I could just post anything and everything about. Well, now I do, in a different way than I ever would have thought. It's a way that works for me. Of course, if you love writing articles, then, write articles. That's dope. I actually enjoy writing articles, but it takes me a long time to write articles. It takes me at least an hour to write an article, and I'm like razor sharp focused right there. With this, it's passive. I'm driving, I'm talking, I'm driving, I'm talking. I can multitask, and it passes the time a little bit better. And also, you get the benefit of, like, hearing a real person. Yeah. Dope. Now, you also said 2 blog posts a day. Well, I don't exactly recommend posting twice a day, but if you want to, you can. The reason I say that is, like, if you think about your commute to work and your commute back to work or back to home, if it's 15 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, you literally can, talk for 10 minutes about something there and talk for 10 minutes on the way back. And therefore, you got 2 podcasts and you got 2 blog articles. Like, so cool. Anyways, that being said, make sure you just take breaks sometimes. Make sure that you don't burn yourself out on the creativity. I know a lot of talk has been floating around about burnout and not burnout, and burnout and not burnout. This is where I kind of disagree with Gary Vee about, he's like, what are you talking about? There's not burnout, but there is burnout. Like, don't get it twisted. I love a lot of his content, but People get burnt out when you continue to try to push yourself harder and harder and harder and harder. It's like running, if you try to run as fast as you can right up front without a cadence, without a very systematic approach and of keep thinking about the long term and thinking about the how you can maintain that stamina, it's exhausting and you burn out very quickly. So this system that I've been working on, this creative system that I've been working on, has been really working and really helping me with getting over having to have something out now. But because each piece of content has been building on itself, and also it's been very creative work. I've been able to flow more, just much more easily. When I get to work, and I talked about this yesterday, I've got to work on probably one of the most intense films that I've done so as far as just like build. Um, so that should be crazy. I think today is the deadline, so yeah, wish me luck. Also, John, your music video is looking very good as far as I can tell. Don't get stuck on multicam stuff, and I'll video chat you soon, bro. All right, catch you guys on the next one. Peace.